see like how people respond.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Okay. My head's getting cut off just a little bit.
There she is between the head and the heart.
Funny, huh?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. We are live streaming on Facebook.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Heart Mind Happy Hour. I am very excited for today's show. This is a show for Heart Mind Alchemy Lab community and Heart Mind Alchemy fans and the community. And this is a show where we bridge ancient wisdom and modern science. We explore topics like consciousness, meditation, neuroscience, and we also explore the personal journey to truth, to awakening. And that is, so the topic for today is one near and dear to my heart. We're talking to Emilie Kershaw, who is an amazing intuitive and medium, and I'm going to talk about her in just a minute. But what we're going to dive into today, I am so excited about. We've titled this The Lost Heart, and how to really, what it means to go into the heart from an emotional, spiritual place and work from the heart, really, and bring in a heart-centered focus. And I love this because there's a belief in Chinese medicine that the seat of consciousness actually resides in the heart, and yet in Western views we often think about the mind and mindfulness and consciousness as being head-centered. And so I love this, bringing it actually down through the portal of the heart is where we find ourselves, and we go out into the world through the portal of the heart. And so I can think of nobody more wonderful to talk to about that than Emilie Kershaw. Like I said, she's a brilliant intuitive and medium. I've had the honor of working with her on several occasions. She's also a close friend. And she's just incredibly perceptive and brings real deep wisdom from her own personal journey, from her talents as an intuitive, to help us reconnect the heart, and use that to understand what is possible for us here on earth as a soul living in this human body, and how we can do that to move beyond our own self limitations. So that will be the theme of today's conversation, and I warmly welcome Emilie here. Welcome, Emilie.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited. And this is a topic I'm really passionate about. And I'm truly happy to be sharing with other people, because I feel like the more we can teach people to tap into their own heart centers, the more we can really uplift and heal society as a whole. So that is a huge ripple effect we can create today, and ongoing with everybody together, with holding the same intention. So like Holly said, I work as an intuitive guide and a medium. I'm also a workshop host. And I have been on a never-ending journey into the heart myself, always on a spiritual quest, always seeking the truth. And like Holly mentioned before, really just always fascinated by, myself and other humans around me, of how can we break through our own limiting beliefs, right? How can we go beyond the physical body and tap into our soul's expansiveness to see what are we truly capable of here on this earth? Why are we here? And how can we use the power of our heart and intuition to really lead us down this path to our highest potential and the most expressive form of ourselves. So I get really jazzed about helping people discover that for themselves and break open to that. So on this personal journey I have been on, there were times in my life where I was definitely disconnected from my heart, and really in this kind of floating open abyss space that I'm sure a lot of us can relate to in life. And it, just to give you an example of what can happen when we disconnect from our heart centers for a period of time, I started to have physical as the outcome of that for myself. And it really clued me into, I really need to check in with myself and figure out, how am I living my life? What do I want, instead of trying to follow a script or, validate and please other people. So the journey back to the heart for me has been an ongoing process. And now I feel like that I have truly tapped into my truth. Here I am, offering my gifts to others, and feeling comfortable to put myself out there as my whole self, right? And not just pieces of myself. Because when we tap into the heart center, we are fully accepting and loving unconditionally the whole self, everything that comes with it, all those stories and past memories and experiences we've had, which is a beautiful thing. So I think this is really a relevant topic right now for so many people. I've been hearing these murmurings of conversations between, my friends and people on social media right now, using, this time during COVID and quarantine and shutdown to really sit finally, right? Sit and rest and tap in and think to themselves, am I living my life the way I truly feel joyous and aligned and feel like I can be myself? And I feel like a lot of people have been asking themselves these questions. There's been this such energetic upheaval that's occurred with these global events taking place. And I feel like these are really poignant questions that we're asking ourselves. And you know what? Even though people are in this place of unknown and maybe dark space, I'm really excited for them, to be honest, because to be asking those questions of yourself and looking to the heart for more guidance is the first step. And that's amazing. That means you're opening the door now to this portal within yourself to connect yourself to this higher source that we all have within ourselves, to be able to guide us to what feels right next for ourselves and be able to connect us to a greater whole as well. Mm-hmm. And so being able to, I think, first going into how we interpret, external input from our environment, right? And as you said before, Holly, in your introduction, we as a society have been so stuck in our heads, right? That this is our major role here. And we've ignored a lot the energy and the speaking of the heart. And we've been kind of taught out of the heart into our heads. I believe when we are born and as kids, you can see young children live directly from the heart. They're unfiltered, they are joyous, they are living from unconditional love. And when we are born, we don't have form of words or language yet, right? So our way of communicating and filtering input is through our sentience, right? We feel things, we feel energy from others, right? These words that people are saying to us are still just jumbled sounds. They don't have meaning yet. And so over time, those words, those sound vibrations, we form meaning around them. And our brain then interprets the meaning of these words. But our heart still receives the feelings of these words and the energy of those around us. But we begin to slowly shift from the heart into the head space, where we are constantly receiving input on a daily basis and relying on our logic and analysis to be able to really tell us how to move forward, how to interpret, how to perceive, right? And if we leave the heart out of this, though, I feel like there begins to be a buildup of emotion or feeling or messages that we are possibly ignoring, right? And not tapping into, and we can begin to feel overwhelmed, disconnected, not an alignment between the head and the heart. Um, and
Yeah.
so, yeah, go ahead, Holly.
I
Yeah.
was just going to say, so, in that really basic kind of what does it mean to live in an open-hearted way, what I heard you say was, we're actually born knowing that. That is how our truth and how we operate. And
Yeah.
we gradually get that sucked out of us. But so if you were to describe what does it really mean to live, first and foremost, and then I'll ask a second question, what does it mean to live in an open-hearted way?
Good question. Yeah, to be living in an open-hearted way, I believe, is to be, so the heart is a non-polarity organ, right? It lives in non-attachment. So as we go about our days, right, we are so used to, again, being in the headspace where we use this divisive polarity to kind of compartmentalize things, right? Where we use judgment to say that's right, that's wrong, good, bad, wrong, right.
Mhm.
Um, but our heart remains in this neutral zone of non-polarity. It is unwavering and it is unconditional. And so when we're living from our heart space and truly tapped into the portal, right, we remain in this centered zone with everything else around us maybe shifting and changing and happening, different beliefs, different styles of doing things, right? And we remain in our own truth, open, right, to everything else around us in this beautiful, welcoming, and loving way, without having to feel, without the need to control anything or manipulate anything around us to serve our needs, right? Because we are receiving everything we need from within when we are living from the heart, right? This unending stream, a source, and so if we can tap into that, really, we become very minimalist in terms of what we need externally, because we find that contentment and satisfaction and validation within ourselves, and we are no longer looking externally for that. Right. I'm sure we've all been around someone like that before in our lives where we kind of just look at them and they say, there's just something about this person, right? They're so comfortable and centered in who they are and what they believe. And it allows me around this other person to become completely unshielded, disarmed, right? I'm allowed to be myself and who I am because this other person has done their own work, has connected to their portal of unconditional love, and is offering me that gift to do the same.
Right. Right. That's so beautiful. And you used a term that I've never heard before, and I suspect other listeners haven't. The heart is a non-polarity organ. So can you describe that? And yeah, describe what that is, and then I might have some questions.
Well, kind of goes back to what I was saying before, where the heart does not make, like, the depth and the capacity of the heart to love is not dependent on this polarity spectrum, right? It doesn't withhold love based on who you are or what your story is, right? So the heart continues to involuntarily beat within ourselves, regardless of what mistakes we make, right? Or what we think about ourselves. It continues to beat inside of us with no judgment. That's an involuntary source of energy. It continues to feed us. And in turn, we can give that same gift to others outside of ourselves when we're talking about tapping into that feeling sentient space of the heart
Right.
as well to others around us.
So if we're feeling lost and disconnected, then clearly the heart is still working.
Yes.
So what do you think's going on? What's happening?
Yes. So the heart is still working. And I truly believe that, even if we're in those times of feeling lost, forgotten about, maybe alone, that we're still on our path and our heart is still guiding us. It may just be that we are not necessarily tuning in. It's still there, it's still present for us, it's still working for us, right? Just as the heart involuntarily beats for us, the heart continually involuntarily leaves us spiritual breadcrumbs along the way, and nudges and instincts, right? And so we are always have this source within us, this internal compass, I like to call it, to call upon. And so the heart can communicate with us in different ways, right? So I described the sentience piece, right, where we can feel and communicate with each other, right? I can tap into your energy source. I can tap into my own feeling energy. And also energetically. So we all have this electromagnetic field created around us, right? And the heart is a huge source of those electromagnetic waves that we create around us. So that is another way for our heart to communicate. And I know with some of your work, Holly, you, in order to communicate with someone else's electromagnetic field, right, you can have that person tap into their heart center to be able to expand their field so you can sense into it and use those waves for healing with your bio field tuning and Reiki as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, doing that right now in the work that I'm doing. And it's incredible because it's actually made the biofield very real in studying this and working with this, because I can hear shifts in people's biofield, places
Yeah.
where there was discordance, some event that occurred in their lives that was, particularly traumatic, for example, and I'll hear it in the tuning fork as a dissonance. I mean, there's no question. It's so there. And now I'm geeking out on this right now. I'm reading a book by Elaine McCusick, just wrote a new book called Electric Body, Electric Health. And
Wow.
she's talking actually about why is it in our society that we, what's this missing piece that we're not recognizing this energy field that's clearly there. And I won't go off into details on that, but basically it has to do with, like we need to be recognizing plasma is the fourth state of matter, and the ether, and kind of why these got left out, and this, strong science that's behind them that absolutely supports that those things exist. And so as kind of Western science, I think, catches up with the existence of this field that we do have, then we will start to recognize our field and our bodies as electric. And then all this will kind of fall into place. Why is it that how is it that people are communicating through our electromagnetic signals? And, and I know what's so great is I know that talking to you, like, well, you are connecting with the invisible world because you do it all the time in your mediumship and intuitive work. And I've seen you work before,
It
and it's like,
exists.
it exists.
It's
It
there.
absolutely exists because I've personally experienced it in my own healing work, and with you connecting to the invisible field with beings from beyond.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
it I maybe we don't understand the full scientific, we surely don't, a picture of how it all fits together, but I can't deny the personal experiences that we've had together that validate
Right.
it's there.
Yeah, no, and like you were saying, I witness this with others on a weekly basis as well. When I am doing readings for others or I'm receiving readings myself, right? And I really do believe that as a species, this is where we're headed in terms of our next form of communication. I really do believe that over time, we will be ascending ourselves, elevating ourselves to a level or dimension where that becomes the norm, right? Because I do already see it where people are waking up to this idea that that's possible, right? Or at least they have curiosity about it, which is great, and the wonderment of it. Because maybe they've had something slight happen to them in their lives that's kind of unexplainable, using the logic and the mind, right, to process those things. Yeah. And so going back to what you were saying about the power of our electromagnetic field as well, I kind of want to segue into how we can use that power on a larger scale. And I wanted to mention the Maharishi effect in that, where there have been several studies done, one particularly in DC, where 1% of the population they have found, so they did 1% of the city's population and had them all come together and set the intention of love and peace within a meditative state. Mm-hmm. And within that, this was done over several days' time. And so within that, where you're really setting this focal point of giving a solid laser beam stream of unconditional love and peace. And through this period of time, the crime rates in the cities dropped dramatically. I also saw this study done in Paris as well during terrorist attacks, where attacks went down dramatically as well during this period of deep meditative states. And so what is that telling us? There's something there, right? There's obviously some correlation. And, I like to think to myself, okay, if 1% of the population can affect this larger group of people, right? What can I or you do on an individual level if we decide to live in the same type of meditative, heart open space on a daily basis, right? And you may not know exactly what that outcome looks for you, but there obviously will be a ripple effect to those around you in your space, right? Because we are all connected through this energetic web. Like, we cannot deny that. And so what I do for myself affects others around me. Heal yourself to heal the world, right? And so it's going through the heart portal into ourselves, where we're really finding this expansiveness out to this greater grid and collective whole, and how we can help those and heal those around us. So I haven't, I'm still in the experimental stage, right, for myself individually. And I challenge us to kind of look at this as an experiment, just like they did this experiment in DC and Paris, where, why not give it a try, see what happens? There's nothing to lose, all positive outcomes on that end. So that's how the heart really communicates in that electromagnetic field. And another way you were bringing up, Holly, is the intuition side of the heart. And I think a lot of times when we use the word intuition, most people would think, oh, my third eye, I'm opening my third eye for communication. Absolutely, the third eye is used for intuition. So is the crown chakra, and so is the womb chakra as well. I always believe, for myself, I intuit into what center of intuition I want to evoke or open up for that situation I am in, or for the person that I am serving at that time, but the heart is a source of intuition for us. We've heard the term follow your heart. My head thinks one thing, my heart says another. So obviously there are these general terms already that acknowledge and recognize that the heart does speak to us. Sometimes it's soft and subtle. And I want to get into that too. How can we discern? How can we hear the heart's murmurings? And what I want to bring up is this idea of fear versus heart voice, and ego versus truth, right? Where an intuitive hit or message will come to you very easily, very quickly, and in a neutral state. It will not have any emotional attachment lingering with it. If we are coming from a state of fear or ego, I literally feel it within my body, right? I might feel my throat constricted, or my heart constricted, or my gut kind of twists a little bit of bracing myself. And that is your fear and ego speaking to you. And it's there, it's doing its best to protect you, right, from a perceived risk or threat, and is there to help you control the outcome, to prevent you from being shamed or judged in some way. But with the heart, it's almost like very. I kind of think of it as tough love, right? Where it says it very clearly to you, no hand holding. It's just very much like very a centered message, very clear. And often sometimes I'll feel a pulling as well. An example of that I want to share just so people can start to understand these tugs and pulls they're feeling is, I grew up on the East Coast, lived between DC and Boston for a cumulative 9 years. And eventually, towards the end of that residency there, I felt pulled to go back to the mountains. I grew up in a small rural mountain town, and I realized that nature and the mountains were a huge part of my well-being and my connection to spirit and who I wanted to be. And so on a whim, I took this trip to Colorado, and a friend of mine there took me up to the crest of a hill on the road, and I could overlook these beautiful Rocky Mountains, right? And I literally felt this magnetic pull from my heart that it was just, ooh, stretching me forward towards these mountains. And I was like, well, I can't deny that. That's a strong pull I'm feeling. And sometimes maybe we'll get that with a person that we come in contact with, where we're like, I don't know what it is, but I feel really drawn to you, right? I feel familiar with you. That's the same kind of heart pull, bringing you to someone, or in my case, the mountains, right, to help you along your way, help you along your path. And so I thought, well, I can't deny this message. This might mean I have to quit my job, leave all my friends behind, and on a whim, just move and see what happens. And I did that. And I feel like because I listened to the heart's pulling, everything fell in place for me, everything aligned. And I feel like since that moment for myself, things have been synchronistically put in place for me. And I think, it's the universe kind of, I've heard this quote before. I apologize, I don't know who it's from, but the universe bends for courage, right? So I believe that when we leap into the message of the heart, right, the universe catches us, and we will find our way in that. So do you, Holly, for yourself, do you feel like there was, any time or moment in your life where you feel like either you weren't listening to the heart or tapping in, and you found those obvious outcomes for yourself with that?
Yeah, absolutely. And what I have found is that, and what resonates to me with what you're speaking about, is that when we live from the heart, actually, what's really happening is that we're stepping into the flow of consciousness, universal consciousness. So it becomes effortless because the nature of consciousness and flow is effortless. And so and the heart is the center where that divine will or universal life force or source or whatever you want to call it is speaking through us most clearly and directly. And then we operate when we wisely hear those messages, those intuitive messages like you're talking about, and we feel that pull and we step into that. It's like we're just stepping into the flow of life.
Right,
It's not
right,
hard, things
right.
flow, because that actually is where divine will or source is moving through us. And it's like we're getting in the raft and flowing down the river. Um, instead of trying to paddle upward towards
Yeah,
something that our
absolutely.
head wants us, thinks, our egoic mind thinks might be better for us. And that's where it feels like, to me if it feels like you're paddling and it's hard, you're thinking with your mind. And if it feels easy and you step into the flow and you glide down, it's because you've stepped into that effortless flow of unity consciousness.
Yeah, you're right. And I think it's counterintuitive for a lot of people, right? Because I feel like we've been taught to really try hard, work hard, earn things through, perseverance and tenacity, which, are not bad things at all. But you're right, where, feeling this resistance is sometimes a clear message. And sometimes that resistance to me means stop and rest, right? Stop.
Yeah,
Like you're
absolutely.
on your path, but please just stop and rest for a bit. Or it could mean this is not your door. This is not your door to open.
Mhm.
Um, and you brought up a good point about effort, because I wanted to bring up inaction versus action, where, during this time of shutdown where a lot of us have been inside or not really mobile as much as we're used to in the past, inaction has been a very new idea for people. And I really wanted to say how within inaction, and when I mean inaction, I mean sitting in contemplation, resting, tapping in and listening, observing, right? Um, there's a lot going on in that. And I feel like we don't put a lot of value or worth on inaction. But I tell you, when the pandemic hit and I was not working at the time, I was living in an apartment by myself, there was a lot of inaction. And it was a big time of progress for me, as well.
Yeah.
And if I continue to try and force myself to stay in the action phase, I would have missed so much, so many minute details of progress that needed to take place in order for me to move forward in my life, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And um, mm, to me, what you're talking about is it actually ties back to what you were talking about earlier about creating the going within, and
Yeah,
that is actually action when we go within and seek our own center and become, find ourselves, become grounded, that is a gift, and we can, whether we're praying for others or sending positive energy or just healing ourselves so that we can step out into the world, that is positive action. And it reminds me of I just love this quote, so I want to just bring it forth. In the UNESCO Constitution, right at the top, it says, since wars begin in the minds of men, it is in the minds of men that defenses of peace must be constructed.
wow. Yeah.
So like right there at the top, you know, it's in the minds of men. And really, and I take that to be our heart mind, but we have to get out of our heads and into our hearts. And the other piece that's very present for me with what you were speaking about, and I know you're so wise on this, is, it's a very feminine quality actually to receive and non-act, and to have that wisdom of healing ourselves and going within so that we can act, and bring forth into the world, is a very, rather than this kind of try kind of do, which feels very masculine to me. And there are times for action, of course, but in this very patriarchal dominated system we've been in for 2000 years,
Right.
isn't this time to bring back this heart, which is this seat of feminine wisdom, which is
Yeah.
receiving, and right? And I would
Yes.
love for you to speak about some of that, because I know you're really in touch with a lot of that energy and what that really means.
Yeah, and it's true that as a society, we view love and the heart center as being feminine. And what I want to say first and foremost about that is that love is fierce, right? Love can set you on fire. Love is powerful force, and so, and it can also be delicate and quiet, so it's very versatile. And so, I have been in many situations, where I'm serving people in different times, right? Maybe I'm serving someone who's in grief. And so I'm getting really soft in my love. I'm getting really open to my compassionate heart. I'm holding the space, right? Or maybe I'm serving someone who's in self-doubt and needs me to help them light their own fire, right? And so I'm coming from a place of love that I am fierce, I am tough love with this person, and I am trying to elevate their vibration, so there's many different ways to feel love within us. I also think that around love, love also requires this like raw vulnerability from us at times as well, where that vulnerability comes from us being honest with who we are. Mm-hmm. And I think vulnerability has gotten a bad rep in our society as being weak, right? Or leaving you open to threat or danger in some way. And I'm really hoping that over time we can really view vulnerability for what it is, which is a huge strength for someone to be completely exposed and honest about who they are, right? That is mad respect and strength and power. And I don't know about you, Holly, but for myself, if I come across someone who stands up, on a stage or, wherever and puts themselves out there in public and says, this is who I am, this is my story, this is who I'm about. I've never, even if I don't agree with what they're speaking on, I have profound respect and this feeling of resonance with them. I can relate to that. I can relate to the truth and the honesty that you are showing right now, your transparency, because that's a human connection. So I'm hoping, yes, that we can see vulnerability more as a power and a strength for ourselves to tap into as well. Yeah.
Mm. Oh, that's so beautiful what you said. And absolutely that resonates with me on vulnerability too. And what it feels like is it's really this surrender is where I take it, right? It's surrendering into what is, it's surrendering into who you are, which is just what you said, speaking your truth, and which is again very feminine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
whenever somebody speaks from the heart, I so agree with you. It's like, oh, it's like you that immediate human connection because you resonate with it so deeply.
Absolutely. Like I said, even if you have different views, standpoints, whatnot, that fades away because you are then communicating with the heart, right? Yeah. Where again, we go back to the idea that the heart is, a nonpolarity organ. It's not going to, if there's a heart human connection there, I feel that, right? And I'm being held by you in that moment. I am not determining the amount of love I'm giving out based on who you are, who's standing in front of me. Right. And I feel like a lot of times we define love and the use of our heart in very restrictive ways sometimes, where we believe, and I used to believe this too for myself, is that love belongs to people in family with, or someone I'm in partnership with, right? Who I choose, right? I will select who I will give my love to or pour myself out to, right? And all these other human beings, I'm going to withhold that until maybe, you've earned it or you've proved it, right? So then I can unlock that for you. But that's really, for us to withhold and restrict love to another is really only damaging ourselves, to be honest. Like, is we need to turn that mirror back on ourselves and realize when we pinch that stream of love off, we're pinching our own source of love off to ourselves. It's not about that other person. And so that was a big opening for me to recognize and realize, wow, my source of love comes from within, first of all. Second of all, the more expansive and open-hearted I am with those around me, regardless, right? The person walking down the street, a coworker, an acquaintance, It doesn't mean I have to shower them with love. It just means I'm standing in a place of open-hearted communication and receiving them as their whole self. And in fold, I am in that loop with them then, right? Where we're both feeding each other this beautiful love. We're creating this love bubble in communication with another or observance of another as well. So I think that's really important to recognize, the media feeds us so many ideas about what love is. And it really rarely talks about our personal connection with the love that's inside of us.
Right.
And along with that too, the term self-love, the way we talk about self-love is that we do something for ourselves when we deserve it, right? And it, thinking about this all right now, it kind of makes me chuckle. It's comical to think that, first of all, that I need to earn my own love, and that I need to prove that I'm worthy or deserving of it. And secondly, that it's this concept that I have to find it and dig it up and feed it to myself, when really the source of that is already inside. So, I ask people, when you use self-love, who is the self that you're giving love to? And really, I like to picture this beautiful blue grid funnel that, when we trigger or activate the love that's inside of us, like I said, it just ripples out to the interconnected web, right? So the self is really, I want to say, we're talking about the unity consciousness, right? When we're talking about feeling love, because when love is felt within us, it activates our external environment as well. So
there's so much there to respond to. And the first thing I'll say is, I love what you said about self-love and this kind of difficult, challenging search to find self.
right.
It's like, it would be, to me, it feels like, the sun searching for the source of its own radiance.
I like that.
Can't
Yeah.
find it. It is you.
Yes.
You are the.
That's why it's so hard to find, because it's
Right.
already there.
The sun cannot find its source of its own radiance. It's already there, and it's
Nice.
more a matter of just returning, a recognition. It's a recognition to find that
Right.
within and reveal what is already true within you. But we mask it over with all kinds of personal judgments and
Yes.
harsh
And it's that
criticism.
illusion of separateness there, right? Where we are a single entity. And, like you were saying, separateness is an illusion. And I'm sure we have all had times of loneliness in our lives. And I think that even when we are around other beings, we can still feel the emotion of loneliness. So our loneliness is not really dependent on being physically close to others or around others, right? Our loneliness is really just a sign that we are disconnected from our own true center, our own true heart. And so a lot of times we'll think of loneliness as, a mental well-being, which it is connected, absolutely, but many times the source of that is really perceiving us as a single entity. And so for myself alone in this room right now, I'm not physically near anyone in my home, although these walls are an illusion, right? We create all these boundaries around us, but on my own, I can evoke the feeling of love within me. And I don't need to wait for anyone else to tap it, to wake it up.
Right. Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. And so I know that you're offering a workshop coming up, and I would love for you to just, what I'm feeling is, if somebody were listening to this and it's resonating and they're like, yep, I know what you mean, feeling loneliness. Yep, I know what you mean about I sense there's some difficulty with self-love, but how? How do you work as a guide with people in this journey to really find their lost heart um, and reconnect with it? Eh, yeah,
Yeah.
what are some of the kinds of things that you do with people?
Yeah, so within this workshop that I'm putting on starting Sunday, February 28th, it's a 4 module workshop entitled Heart Centered. So we're getting centered into the heart. What I want to explore is I love asking people self reflective questions, self discovery questions, where they're going to start to remember that they are the captains of their own ships, essentially, right? Where I'm going to start having them practice looking inwards instead of really looking outwards for answers and validation and clues. And so we start with questioning what we already know, because a lot of the beliefs we have in the truths we created, you know, they're made up. A lot of them are just made up, and I'm not saying, what we believe in feels true, feels very real to us, right? But, these social norms or belief systems, the way we do things, have we asked ourselves why?
Mhm.
Why are we doing things that way? And am I okay with that? And I think that's a really good place to start, because it kind of shatters what we know to be true and what we know to be our reality around us. And then we can start we can start really becoming our own artist and shaping the reality around us. Once we have this awakening of like, oh, I have some say in what my life looks like, or how I want to do things, or what I want to believe is best for me, right? And that's okay. And feeling ownership in those beliefs. And I think sometimes we have to sift through a little bit and figure out what are we most aligned with to be able to um, hold true to our own, commandments, basically. And those will change over time. Those are also fluid. um, so once I help people kind of get into that state, then I really want to offer them tools of meditation, visualizations, intention setting, for them to be able to practice with me and on their own as well, to tap into, okay, what is this? What does it feel like to be connected to my heart? And that might be a new feeling for some people. And when we initially connect to our heart after a long period of time, there might be some layers that we need to shed. And that's okay, right? We are processing through those emotional layers to get down to the base of our, involuntary heart there of unconditionality. And so there is that peeling away process, peeling away old layers of beliefs that don't serve us, peeling away old layers of memories and emotions from the heart center that no longer we need to hold on to, right? We've just kind of ignored that piece of an event or experience and moved on because maybe we've processed it here, but we've lacked the knowledge or ability maybe to process it here as well.
Mhm.
Um,
And
and so I'm just really excited to give people these ways to do this on their own as well, because again, I am the teacher in this workshop, but in the same degree, I love to kind of create this independence in people to know that they have this own power as well, and to explore this within themselves so they can walk away feeling like they've got, all these tools now to experience life in a completely different way.
Mhm. So beautiful. Well, I just so respect the work that you do and my own experience. I mean, folks, my own experience working with Emilie is so positive. I can't say enough how beautifully intuitive, um, heartfelt, and wise she is. And I think her intuitive gifts help to be able to read very delicately kind of what's going on for someone and reframe it in a way that makes it clear to see, which is, I think, the gift of a really good coach is to be able to shed clarity into an issue that can feel, hard to see for ourselves when we're having our
Yeah.
own internal conversation.
Right, right.
And you do that so beautifully. I mean, you really,
Thank you, Holly. Thank
really,
you.
really do. And so, I just have so much respect and love for the work that you do. And so I really encourage anybody listening, if any of this is resonating with you, I just really, couldn't recommend working with Emilie more highly. And
Thank
if,
you.
and by the way, if you need a good medium, she's amazing. Um, I've had personal readings with her, and I asked her, I want to bring her back to do a mediumship reading. But she called in my grandmother, new details about her that she would have no way to know, um, other than that my grandmother really was there in the reading, and it was amazing. And so her gifts are really, really strong and clear. And so, just
Thank you,
putting out a
Holly.
shout out for you and the work that you
Yeah,
do.
thank you. I appreciate that. And I want to stay with that too, um, in the beginning of my sessions with most people I work with, I'm tapping into the heart center, and I'm asking that person also to breathe into their heart with me. And so that's how I make my connections with spirit, those who have passed over, to become a clear and open conduit for messages and intuition. Um, and so when I have both me and my sitter, who I'm giving messages to, tapping into our heart centers, right, we're creating this energetic bridge of communication between the hearts. And so I really believe that our heart speaks messages within our electromagnetic field, just like you work in, Holly, with clients. And I kind of feel into those waves because we all, you know how people use that term, we wear our hearts on our sleeves, right? Well, in a way, like we wear, our heart exists within this space around us, right? Not just withheld in our physical body, but its messages and its feeling that it evokes is around us in this energetic space as well. And that's really what I'm tapping into, is the story that your heart wants to tell. And so that's just such a wonderful part of the work I do, because everyone's, to be able to reconnect someone back into their truth in that way, is such an honor and a beautiful thing to witness and experience. So,
Hmm. Oh, that's so beautiful. And I love what you said, tapping into the story that your heart wants to tell. There's your tagline, because you do that
oh, I love
so
it.
beautifully.
Write that down.
I did.
Okay, great.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is your gift. Your gift is actually helping people tap into the story that their heart wants to tell. And we often can't see clearly what that story is. We may have some, fuzzy notions about it, but you have this gift to actually, I'm convinced you're psychically really tapping actually into their heart and making clear the story that the person's heart wants to tell. And when that clarity is there, then you can really begin to work with it in a very intelligent way, and you move past blocks or things that seemed fuzzy or disconnected, and you can really make amazing progress, I think, on that healing awakening journey. And I'm just so excited for anyone that gets to work with you, because I know that you'll do amazing things.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
awesome.
And I know I'm aware of the time. And so is there anything else that you want to leave us with? I want to give the details of your workshop, and we'll put those in
Yeah.
the show notes, but just kind of what would you like to leave with folks with, and maybe say a little of the details?
Yeah. So, one more point I was thinking of too, along with that, is I want everyone to know that we all have intuitive abilities. As a human, we all are intuitive, and some people might shake their head saying, nah, not me, definitely not. But it's true. And it is a muscle that you just need to exercise and tap into over time. So, I have always been open and sensitive to things, but I have been exercising this muscle for a while, and so I find myself here in this place. But everybody can intuitively tap into their heart themselves as well. I also want to read this quote because I love it so much and it speaks to me. It's by Tacopa Turner. She's the author of the book Belonging. Beautiful book, just so poetically written. And the quote is, "Drop your maps and listen to your lostness like a sacred calling into presence."
Mm,
Isn't that great?
that is so great.
Right? It gives me such a great visualization, right? Of you're kind of in this state of unknown and you're like trying to figure out where you are. And it's just let it go, surrender to this darker space, into this abyss, right?
Oh,
Into the sacredness of presence. So I just want to leave people with that, to know that that is a beautiful part of all of our journeys, and they are not alone in that. Yeah.
oh, I absolutely love that quote.
Yes, I carry it with me.
That's so yummy.
I thought that was great for our Lost Heart title today as well, you know?
Perfect.
But yeah, so the workshop, there are still some spaces left in the workshop. I will be leaving my the link to my Facebook page probably within the notes of this recording here. So that will guide you to the events page on my Facebook page to show you the date. The start date is this Sunday, February 28th. So I would love to have you, and I'd be excited to bring more of us together to practice that Maharishi effect, right? So the more, the merrier. And this is going to be a donation-based workshop. So I'm having a donation range between $65 and $95 for 4 modules. And I hope to continue this workshop as time goes on as well, and see where it takes me. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. I want to say, so EmilieKershaw.com is your website, and it's Emilie, Emilie.
That's an important point. Yes, I don't have a Y at the end. It's Emilie. That's correct. Yeah.
Kershaw.
And I'll put that in the notes as well, so you can access me in 2 different ways.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. So EmilieKershaw.com. It starts this Sunday. So I hope some folks here get inspired to sign up. You're offering
Yes,
a
absolutely.
very, very generous price. So, there's no reason, not to step out and do it and say yes if this speaks to you. So, and I just wish you all the best. So appreciate you coming on and sharing your beautiful wisdom, and just incredible thanks to you for all the work that you do. The beautiful.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to come on and share with your whole group as well. So I'm excited to get to know some people here and in this whole community as well. So we'll see what happens.
You bet. And just thank you, everybody who was watching and listening. We do this for the benefit of you and for the benefit of all sentient beings. And we will gradually together become more aware, more aware, and more kind. So I will leave you with that, and love and blessings to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.